Well, what do I say about that speech? I thought it was oddly not dynamic, but I think it maybe was sort of a rehash of many of the old ideas the governor has restated in the past. There were a lot of things that I particularly didn't like. One was his discussion about local governments. We have too many local governments, and that concerns me because his solution was to eliminate local governments. And my feeling is we put so many unfunded mandates like pensions and other costs onto our local governments, and I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is the unfunded state mandates, not the fact that we have local governments, because local governments are the heart of our democracy and our representative government. I think when you try to consolidate power by eliminating local governments, you actually hurt the people's choice and the people's right to be free. And so that was a little bit, I wasn't happy with that. It seemed that all the tax issues were contradictory. So you have a circuit breaker for people that are, for property taxes, but there's a property tax freeze as long as you comply with the property tax freeze. But all of it was a lot of ideas where if you get into the detail, they weren't really doable. They were actually just ideas. They were non-substantive. So I was a little disappointed with that. I thought it was completely offensive that he would honor Ray Halberter, who is, to me, a very corrupt, fraudulent leader of the Oneida Nation who's built not only the Oneida County taxpayers out of billions of dollars or $1 billion, but he's also hurt, the Native Americans, true Native Americans, of which he is not a genuine Oneida. So I was a little disappointed with the recognition of him. The way the Oneida deal went through, and he mentioned it like it was a great thing. I mean, obviously I'm fighting it. I think it's really disappointing, and adding to that, he puts in, and I don't understand this, why would you appoint a guy, might be a wonderful person, a Peace Corps, former Peace Corps representative, and a college president to run casino gaming in New York? It just is a very specific industry with a lot of corruption, and you really have to have a knowledge base of that industry and maybe even have some legal background because it's very particular, it's very statutory, and I just thought that was a very odd appointment. The man might be wonderful, but he's just not the person for the job based on the background they described. I thought no mention of Common Core and how tough that was for this year and how people are adjusting to it. Again, that's another sort of progressive dream of missing the point. I mean, Common Core education is about creating critical thinkers. Education is not about creating kids that are going to go out and be programmed into certain jobs. When you program somebody for a job, they're useless in any other field. If you're a critical thinker, you're much more flexible in the workforce, and you have a longevity in your workforce. So he didn't address that at all. He talked about plunging money into education with zero reform of the school aid formula, which is one of the biggest problems plaguing education system. I just thought overall it was sort of lackluster. I wasn't impressed with many of his initiatives. I like the idea of tax cuts, but then again, manufacturers' tax cut, he left out the Hudson Valley because of the MTA tax. So now if you're a manufacturer in the Hudson Valley, you don't get the tax break. So that hurts businesses in the Hudson Valley, of which I represent Orange. So I was frustrated by the whole thing. I just thought it was a lot more smoke and mirrors that we see year after year with Governor Cuomo, and in many ways a disappointment, though I thought his tone was a little calmer. He almost talked about what maybe could have been the DREAM Act at the end, and he was kind of heading toward it takes 10 bullets to kill a deer, but he sort of backed off of that, so I think maybe last year he learned something. I do think the gimmicks with the Adirondack Challenge and the fun and everything, I mean, I know he's trying to be fun, but we have some serious issues in New York. And he described this horrible malaise before he came in and how wonderful it is now. And truthfully, the opposite, we've gone from the 49th to now 50th in almost every category. So I don't know. I thought it wasn't a great performance by him, and I also think some of the initiatives were hollow.